Engines roar on a moonlit stage, steel beasts roll a distant wage. Truckers' voices crying through the night, tales of speed and endless fights. Miles and miles, all our strength we give. Hauling dreams, we fight to live. Lonely highways call our name. In this life, we find our fame. Neon lights and diner blues, truck stops where we share the news. Turning wheels in endless miles, stories fill the smoky aisles. Miles and miles, all our strength we give. Hauling dreams, we fight to live. Lonely highways call our name.
All right, we're back. We're live on Truckers Voices tonight. We are with y'all. We kind of cut the intro a little short because we got a lot to get to today. But man, we got a show lined up for y'all tonight. And you know what, trucking family, we want to welcome you to another good time here on Truckers Voices. I'm your host, Tim Taylor, and over there we're going to bring old Steve-O in here in just a few minutes. But I want to tell you a little bit about the show tonight. So, you know, I'm the guy who, drinks more coffee than fuel and somehow still keeps the show between the lines. But tonight, we got a real road warrior for us tonight here in the house. The one and only Ritch Fundell. He's professional city driver, TDC competitor, America's Road Team captain, husband, father, and all-around good dude, okay? So, he probably shifts, smoother than I can talk right now. But we're going to talk trucking, competition, safety, and maybe even a few roadside stories. But, maybe some of those stories will make us all laugh. And maybe they'll make you laugh. And, we'll just get right on into it here in just a few minutes. And we'll get this, rig ready to roll on this show of another Truckers Voices podcast. I'm going to bring Steven here and get him to help me out a little bit because I'm just tripping all over my words tonight. Everybody, Steve Brand with his "You Keep Me Rolling" music here, Steve.
I'm rolling, baby, and I'm riding dirty. My truck is dirty. That's right. How we doing, buddy?
Good, Steve. Good. And just kind of rolling through the monologue there just a little bit, and I kind of cut it short there because I wanted to get on in here tonight. But man, trying to get these controls straightened out. But hey, we have got one A-list lineup tonight on Truckers Voices.
Yes, sir. We sure do. So far, it's been a pretty good trucking week, even though I got stopped behind an accident today. Thank God everybody was okay. Car just hit the guardrail and kind of made a mess of things, but we're all good. Got it rolling, got home safely, and got everything taken care of, and that's the main thing. Make it
That's
home
right.
safely.
That's it, Steve-O. Hey,
Yes,
we've got some good guests coming up in the next couple of weeks.
oh, we got some dandies.
Don't-
So y'all stay tuned. If you
Don't-
can't listen to us live, make sure you hit the replay.
That's it. Don't let the cat out of the bag yet. But hey, y'all gonna want to see the show on November the 6th, okay? And y'all don't want to miss it. But we got somebody good lined up for Truckers Voices, man. I tell you. But anytime y'all want to catch Truckers Voices or catch us on the replay, we're always over there on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts, and the main one, truckersvoices.com.
Truckersvoices.com. Yes, sir. And hey, if you guys ever want to talk to us, just give us a call. We'll talk to you. We'll tell you what's got to go on with the show, and we'll get you on there, man. We'd love to have you on there.
Look at there, Steve-O. Look at that right there.
I like it.
I got some more hats, y'all. So y'all hit me up, hit Steve, let us know. We get you a hat there, and every bit of our proceeds goes to support the show, keeps us on the air, and it keeps us rolling. Hey, with that said, before we actually get into the show, I need to do this because we have a great, great, great sponsor.
Yes, we do.
You know what he told me today?
What's that?
He's sending me a check for $100 made out to the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation.
Now that is awesome right there. That is awesome.
So let's hear from Patrick Laura right now.
Sure.
Here at Truckers Voices Podcast, we're rolling down the highway with a big thank you to one of our proud sponsors, the Fulton County Old Country Show. Every week, they're bringing that good old country music straight from the heartland. The kind that tells stories, stirs your souls, and keeps the wheels turning. Whether you're driving through the night or tuning in from home, the Fulton County Old Country Show is always there with real music for real folks. And thanks to their support, we keep getting to share the voices of America truckers, their journeys, their stories, and the road ahead. So from all of us at Truckers Voices, thank you. Fulton County Old Country Show. You're not just playing music, you're driving it forward. Catch the Fulton County Old Country Show and keep it country.
Thank you, Patrick Laurel and the Fulton County Old Country Show.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, Steve-O, I gave a little bit of an introduction of Ritch Fundell there, but talk about Ritch just a little bit before we bring him on. But let's do this first. All right.
We got to get that disclaimer out there. Opinions expressed on Truckers Voices are those of the host and the guest and do not reflect the views of any employers, affiliates, or organizations. For informational and entertainment purposes only.
We're here to entertain.
That's right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
But go ahead. Tell me a little bit about Ritch there, that, just off the top of your head.
Ritch is a great guy. He works over in Illinois. I'm over here in Ohio. Practiced with him for the TDC. Very sharp. Got a good form. I learned a couple things. He says I taught him a couple things. I don't know about that, but just an all around good guy. Got a big heart. Do anything in the world for you.
Yeah.
And he's I don't want to say typical truck driver, but he's a truck driver with a big heart. And you need a helping hand, he's got a set of big hands to throw it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like everybody we've had on our show and everybody that we know. I mean, it's they'll lay down that carpet and let you walk over the top of the mud puddle, not walk through it. I don't know where that come from, but it just popped off my head. I don't know. But that's the trucking industry.
That's the trucking industry for sure. Well, let's not belabor this longer. I see him back there in the green room, and we're on such a shoestring budget. We don't leave any snacks over there. But let's bring him in because he is a champion for sure. And everybody, let's bring in Ritch Fundell.
Hey, those snacks are AI snacks, okay?
How you doing, guys?
I'm doing good.
Hey, thank you for coming on Truckers Voices tonight, man. We sure appreciate it, and we're excited to have you on, and we want to just jump right into this interview. And thank you for carving out the time tonight, Ritch. Truckers Voices is all about truckers and their stories. Okay, so let's jump right on into the interview and tell us who you are, tell us where you're from, and then we'll get to know you even more. How about that?
Yeah, sure. My name is Ritch Fundell. I'm from Illinois. Live here in Tonic, Illinois. I've been a professional truck driver for 27 years and 29 years in the industry, and I've been a city driver for pretty much that whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell us how you first got started in the trucking industry, Ritch?
Yeah, so I'm an 18-year-old kid just out of high school, and I was working two part-time jobs. I was actually a short order cook for a restaurant, carpet cleaning business. And one night, my brother came over to have dinner at my parents' house, and he worked for a trucking company, a regional LTL company. And just out of the blue, my dad asked him, he said, do you think they're looking for any dock help over there at the trucking company? And, it really kind of ticked me off a little bit because I didn't want to ask my brother to, to get me a job or anything. But he said, I'm not sure. I'll check with them and, see what's going on. So sure enough, a couple days went by.
Yeah, I think Rich froze up there a little bit on us.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So anyway, to fill some dead air here, Steve, I'll talk about Rich a little bit. And Rich, if you can hear us, you might want to log out and log back in, just to kind of reestablish your connection there. But I've been knowing Rich for quite a while now, and I first met him at the through the TDCs, but I also met Rich as a road team captain, so to speak, and he let me get a better shot of us here.
There you go.
Yeah, he come along and he tried out, for the road team, and he did exceptionally well. I mean, he had a great speech, he had a great delivery. Uh, he was sharp on his interview questions. He was sharp on his media. I mean, he is, and I should say he is a great asset, to the road team. I think he's trying to get logged back in there, so we'll see. Yeah, here he comes. Let's bring him on back in here. So anyway, but he's been great. Road team captain, professional in all. You with us?
Yep. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We'll try to work that out.
Yeah, so I lost you there, but anyways, got a job at this trucking company working with my brother. He was a driver. I was a dock worker for about 2 years, and then after 2 years went by, they asked if I was interested in driving. At that point, I had already been a hostler for a little bit, knew the backing characteristics of the truck, and started doing some city work shortly thereafter, and that's pretty much what I've done ever since. Was with that company for all totaled almost 9 years, and then switched and came over to my current company back in 2004.
Gotcha. So what drew you to become a city driver specifically?
Well, honestly, when I started at the dock position, I was on like a 4 to 12 or 4 to 2 schedule, and I honestly just didn't care for the night schedule so much. And at the time, I was still involved in sports, played some basketball and some softball, and night schedules just didn't work for me. And so got into the city side. And once I got into the city aspect of driving and being able to work with customers and have that interaction daily with customers, it's just something that I really enjoy about my job, and never really wanted to leave that part of it.
Gotcha.
What's a typical day look like for you as a city driver?
So right now my schedule is I come in at 8 o'clock in the morning. Typically our loads are pretty much done at that point, and then my route currently is only about 20 miles from our center. So the core route's 20 miles. There's obviously more outlying areas that I cover, but make about somewhere between 10 and 15 deliveries today, and 5 to 10 pickups. And sometimes at the end of the day, when you come back, you might have to do a swap account, but I'm usually off between 5 and 6, and that usually is good. Gives me an opportunity to get to some of my daughter's sporting events.
It's all about family.
Yeah, amen.
Yeah.
So Rich, what does how do you balance fast-paced city driving life and stay a safety professional at all times?
Well, I learned a long time ago, there's no delivery or no pickup that's worth putting yourself or someone else at risk. So as a city driver, you are going to feel the pressures of close times and appointment times and all of those things. You do feel that during the day, but there's only so much that I can really control, right? I can control me and being safe, but a lot of that depends on how many deliveries I started the day with, or how long you get held up at a customer. And you just got to communicate those delays with dispatch. And once that's communicated, like, I feel like the pressure is now off me. Like I've communicated that well with dispatch. and then we got to work together. Sometimes he's got guys in the area that can help out, but again, it's all about safety, and there's nothing that's more important than me coming home safe to my family every night, along with those that I come into contact with on the roads.
Right, right. Steve's going to move into the TDC part of it with you here for just a little bit. So go ahead, Steve, and jump in on that.
Yeah, you brought up the word safety, and that's what the TDC is about. It's all about safety, and we know the rule. You've got to be safe for 1 year, accident, injury free. And what? Let's go back to that. What inspired you to get into the TDC?
Well, actually, at the time, I was working with a really good friend of mine. You guys both know him really well. It's Tim Benesiak, but he had competed in 2006 and tried to get me to compete with him that year. And, honestly, I used the excuse that a lot of other drivers use when somebody asked them to compete. I didn't have the time. I didn't want to. Made every excuse in the book, and it boiled down to basically I didn't want to get out of my comfort zone. He actually won his rookie year, and that kind of still it was interesting to hear his stories from national and the experience that he had, but I still wasn't convinced. So 2007 rolls along. He's still after me to compete, and I still kind of give him the cold shoulder a little bit. And then finally, at the end of 2007, he just pretty much told me I was competing with him the next year. And so I did it begrudgingly in the beginning, and it was just pretty much just to kind of shut him up a little bit. Yeah, I'll go check this out. Had no idea what the competition was about or what I was getting myself into. But, once I got into that program, I was hooked. I mean, I love to compete in sports. That's another release for me to compete and obviously learn so much about the equipment that I drive, about the industry that I'm in, and the boundaries of your equipment. So loved it. And, it really makes you think about how you affect other people's lives. And I don't know, I'm sure that Tim didn't realize it at the time, but without him twisting my arm for 2 years, my life wouldn't be what it is today. Like the experiences that I've had through the competition level, which actually opened the door to me to become a road team captain. And all of that was because he was annoying for 2 years, and I finally said yes. So, we don't always realize that, how we influence others, but you look back and say he had an impact on my life.
Right. I'm giggling because I know Tim, and when you say annoying, oh my Lord. But he's not annoying after the fact, because look where you're at today because of that annoyance, so to speak. And and it's annoying in a good way.
Well, he challenged me, and so for me, it was it was somebody challenged me to do something. So yeah, I'll give it a shot. And I don't think either one of us knew what doors would open because I said yes that first time.
Right. Exactly. How do you prepare mentally and physically for your driving competition?
It's changed over the years. Recently, I've been competing for 15 years. So I started in 2008, competed ever since, minus the 2 years of COVID. But in the beginning, when we get the Facts for Drivers release, the audio or the book comes out, I'm on the line getting that immediately. But I feel like you're climbing a mountain in the beginning because I know how much work I put into the TDC, the studying, the practicing, free tripping. And in the beginning, it's a little overwhelming to think about the commitment that it takes, but it's like anything else. I mean, how do you climb a mountain or eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a time. And
Right.
so it's just opening that book the first time and just kind of cracking it open, getting your feet wet. And then I practice, usually from April when weather breaks up here and it starts to warm up. It's pretty much every weekend between April and the state competition, which is mid-June for us. And if I'm fortunate enough to make it through nationals, I take a couple weeks, or make it to nationals. I take a couple weeks off in between, hit a vacation in there, and then start back up again with try to do at least one a week. And sometimes you miss, family things come up or whatnot. But I'm a big guy for repetitions. I feel like that's the way I stay sharp.
Right. What advice would you give for a first-time TDC competitor?
There's a couple points that I try to bring out for a first-time competitor. And the first one is everybody seems to be afraid of the written test in the book. And I tell them right off the bat, and I love the written test. Like I put a lot of time and effort into it, but for new people, I tell them, don't worry about it. Like, do the best you can with it, but don't be overwhelmed by it. Some people will not compete if they really they get scared of the book. So I tell them in the beginning, like, don't worry about the book. It will come over time. Things will start sticking in your head over time. The other piece of advice I give them is don't put any expectations on yourself. Like, I have to win in order for this to be a success, or I have to trophy, otherwise it's not a success. Your first years, you're going to learn so much about the equipment and the industry and the boundaries of your truck. You're going to meet some great people that are lifelong friends. So, don't think that you have to win in order for that to be a success. And the last thing that I'll tell them, and it sounds kind of contradictory, but it's not, just because you're a rookie, it doesn't mean you can't win. And I say that because, when you go to state, you'll see guys there that have, they've been to nationals a dozen times or whatever, but that doesn't matter the day of the competition. So go in there thinking that you can win, absolutely, but also don't put the pressure on yourself to feel like, if I don't, this has been a failure.
Right. Exactly. And, a mutual friend of ours, you talked about you can win as a rookie. His first year, he was a rookie in the state of Kentucky, and he won, and I think he won grand champion also. And then he turns around and goes to nationals, and he wins rookie of the year. He wins his class, and he wins grand champion. And I think he's the only one that's ever done that in the history of TDC, I believe, but I'm not sure. I mean, he's recent. He's within the last 20 years that one done that.
No, I think he's the only one ever, and that's a prime example of that. So it can be done, and you just got to go out there. And the weird thing about competing at the levels that we do with our competition is, when you're competing in basketball or baseball, you're competing against the person that's guarding you or the pitcher. But in a competition, a driving competition, you're competing against the course or the pre-trip or whatever that is. So you really can't control anybody else in your class. Like, if you and I are in the same class, I have no control over you. All I can do is do the best that I can do. And so that's another aspect. You don't have to shut a guy down that's been to nationals 12 times. You just got to go out there and beat the course and do the best you can at the course.
That's right.
Exactly. And that's where I finally come the last few years of, oh my gosh, so-and-so's in my class. Oh my gosh. No, it's not me against him or anybody else in the class. It's me in that course, me in that pre-trip. So, and I just want to say real quick, and we'll wrap up this part of it. Don't be afraid to travel. Don't be afraid to travel. If you've got some buddies, go here, go there. Take your wife, take your kids, because that's what it's about. It's a big family event. When you practice, get your kids involved. Just get them involved. Show them how to keep score. But the main thing with that is make sure everybody sees you and you see them at all times.
So on that note, I competed for a while at the state level. I think I won maybe one state championship, but really wasn't consistent. And I started traveling across state lines to do practices with other friends from other terminals. And that's when I really started, I think, becoming more consistent, because I was broadening my horizon. Instead of, just the people that I work with, we learn from each other. But when you start expanding your network and learning from other drivers from all over the country, whether they're in your company or not, that's when I think you really can elevate yourself to the next level.
Yes. And these charity events are a great venue to get to, because you learn how other people's practice. You learn what they do. They learn from you, and you get to see a different terrain and everything else. So that's awesome. Hey, congratulations on everything you've done over the years.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, Rich, we're going to move into a different segment here. And, Rich, can I get you to just turn your volume on your phone down just a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, maybe that'll take out some of the reverb just a little bit.
Help? That's about as low as I can.
Yeah. Well, can you still hear me?
Yep.
All right, that'll help a little bit. All right. So, Rich, being a road team captain, what does it mean being a road team captain to you personally?
And it starts back with the TDC. So when I started competing, I would see these guys at the state level that had these blazers on. And I think they were Walmart road team captains at the time. And I had no idea what the road team was back then. You know, you're talking 15, 18 years ago. And so I started meeting some of these guys, and you really realize that the road team captains are really the best of the best, or some of the best people that you're going to meet, the most knowledgeable. They always handle themselves in a professional way. You know, met you guys along the way, same type of thing. And so it really inspired me to be better. Meeting the more captains that I met, the better that I wanted to be. I wanted to be more like them, more professional, more knowledgeable. And so it's really surreal. Like I've, been associated with two different road teams, and to be, when you get selected to a road team, it's really surreal to hear your name called and to think that you are now one of those captains. And that's when the work begins, right? So now you're on the team, and so now you've got to live up to the standard that all of those that came before you set. And it's just been another great experience in my life that that I'm very thankful for.
Yeah. So can you share a story from the time as a road team captain that really, really, really has made an impact on you?
Yeah, probably a couple, honestly. And so the first one that always comes to mind, and it's I think the first event that I've ever done. I was working it was a share the road event with a couple other captains, and one of them you might know. I think his name was Tim Taylor. And we did this event, and we were at a little school, not so little school, but a school in Valdesta. And part of that event, we were inside the classroom, and here I am with as a new road team captain. A friend of mine that just made the team with me, Bob Hare. We're standing in there in this classroom, and you go to show this video called "The Last Text." And I'm telling you what, I've been a professional driver for 20 years, and I know the dangers of distracted driving and what that can cause. But
Mhm.
to see that video that you showed that day, um, I'm standing up there doing all I can to hold it together, and I'm looking over at Bob, and he's having the same struggles I am. But to hear parents' firsthand stories of losing their children because of distracted driving, and at that time, my oldest son was just starting to drive, so for it hit me like a ton of bricks. How, for whatever reason, like I already knew that that the dangers, and that's why I was on the team, but to
Right.
see that for the first time. So thanks a lot. In future, you might want to warn some guys when you're working with them that you're going to do that to them.
Well, I've got something coming up here next week, and I've got a new video that's more impactful than that. So I might warn them. Okay.
All right. The other one I want to touch on real quick is I did a touch a truck down in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a couple years ago, and I worked by myself. No other captains were there. And the first hour of that touch a truck event was what they called a sensory hour. Though it was for special needs children, especially those on the autism spectrum. And so they didn't want any horns honking or any flashing lights, but to see those kids come up and the excitement in their eyes to climb into that truck, and some of them had to be helped in by their parents. It was just so heartwarming. And that event there, and it was the busiest touch a truck I've ever done, and I was by myself, but from the start, the opening bell to the finish, I had kids in the truck all day long, and I just left there so exhilarated. It was like an adrenaline rush to see the excitement on those kids all day long for, I think it was 3 hours, and it just makes you really happy with what you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
So,
sir.
so what kind of message do you try to deliver when speaking to the public about safety? Whether it be a touch a truck or a share the road. What's your primary message?
Well, obviously safety, right? That's what we're out there for, is to educate the public about safety and how to share the road with large trucks. But my focus generally is I want them to get my perspective, right? So I want them to understand what we see as drivers, and specifically me, because it's me out there, and it's my experiences. So every driver has a different experience. They come from a different background, road, city, whatever, over the road. But I want them to understand like what I'm seeing as a professional, so that when they sit in that seat, I want them to think that, what if I was in this seat,
Right.
and somebody cut me off, and I have a vehicle that weighs 80,000 pounds? How would I react? Or what if I got boxed in and there was a broke down four-wheeler in front of me? Like, I want them to see that firsthand. And I think once you get that point across to them, like, how would you react in this situation? I think that's when the lights really come on for the public.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you think public education, so to speak, the efforts like Share the Road are changing driving behavior, especially as those young and up and coming motorists? How do you think it's changing behaviors or developing the behaviors?
Well, you can see it. I know that you guys have done the events too, but you can see it in the eyes of especially the young kids, but even adults. I mean, I've seen it with young children, 16, 17-year-old kids. I've seen it with older adults that maybe just haven't been around trucks their whole life. Especially when you get into the big cities. I'm from a rural area, so most people have been around trucks at some form or another. But when you start getting into the inner city, um, the lights go off for these kids when they realize just how big these trucks are, and just how when you talk about the stopping distance is more than the length of a football field. And so I know right then and there that I'm making an impact on that person's life and those kids' lives. And you know what? When you think about the number of captains that are out there, whether it be the state level, the company level, or the national level, you know that there's a huge impact being made. I see, maybe do a couple events a year for that, but the number of captains that are out there doing the same message, for sure that it's making a difference.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And to go along with that, I don't take it away from the kids by any means, but if I can squeeze a couple adults in there that's never been in a truck, let them see what the children are seeing or not seeing. Teachers, driver's ed, anybody I can stick in that truck, I will stick it into them, stick them in there. And, I've had principals tell me, man, I never knew that. So, and I've had teachers say, now I can incorporate that in my off time, in my class and stuff. And that's the thing, and but I have to agree with you, Rich. When you could, I love touching trucks because kids see trucks from the outside, but they never get to see them on the inside. And
Yeah.
just see the smile on their face, and they turn around, look at their mom or dad, and say, "There's a bed in here. There's a TV in here." Wow. But that's awesome. Thanks for all you do for that. Appreciate that.
No,
Hey,
my
we're
pleasure.
yeah, I'm gonna turn the wheel a little bit here, and pun intended. And as a husband and a father, how do you balance your home life and the demands of your everyday driving life?
That's a good question. And I think, and to be honest, there are times that that's hard, right? Like trucking is weird hours and sometimes long hours. And so all of that can be a challenge at times. But I also think that no matter what your career is, if you're going to be successful at something, you're going to put in some time and there are going to be some sacrifices that have to be made. Having said that, and that's one of the reasons you asked earlier about why I wanted to stay on the city side, I think the city side of the P&D and an LTL company has really given me the best flexibility that I can have to make those events that I can for my kids and my family. And over the years, I want to say that I've probably been to 75 to 80% of all of their extracurricular things. I've coached baseball, basketball, football, soccer. I was a Boy Scout leader for 12 years. And so I've been actually very fortunate that I've been able to do that and maintain all of that despite being a truck driver. And that's one of the things I love about the industry is you can set the schedule that you want. If you want to be line haul, you want to be city, you want to be over the road, but depending on what you want out of life, there's an opportunity here for you in the trucking industry.
Exactly, exactly. What's your family think about your involvement in the competitions and all your advocacy work? That's a big word for me. All the work and everything you do. What's your how they feel about that?
Well, I got to give a shout out. You guys have both met my wife, but my wife has been immeasurably important to me, and she's supported me and she's believed in me from before I believed in myself at the state level. The first few years I got a couple second place trophies, and she's like, I know that you're going to get up there on stage and you're going to go to nationals. I know that you'll be a grand champion someday. And I was kind of like, yeah, honey, I know, but I don't know that I believed it like she did. And she said about becoming a road team captain. She said, I know that's you. That speaks you. That's just who you are. And when I first met captains, I didn't think that, I'm like, that's a pretty lofty goal to try to attain. But she's been there through thick and thin, and good times and bad. Even when competition days don't go good, she's still there to pick me up. My children, I got a message from my oldest son. I think it was last year after nationals, I'd placed second in the 3-axle class. And when he found out, he texted me and said, "I'm proud of you, Dad." And I'm telling you what, if we always tell our kids we're proud of them, but when you get that back from your kid who's now an adult, it just melts your heart. So I'm very thankful that they've been able to come to a lot of the competitions, that I'm able to share my experiences on the road team with them, and they love what Dad does, being even just my everyday grind as a driver, but also the competition and the road team work that I've done.
Right, exactly, and that's what I tell everybody, that support means a lot, and it's everything. I mean, when you turn around and see your family back there cheering you on, and you had a bad day. Uh, just a personal note, I had a bad time at nationals. I didn't do real good at all. My wife's right there rubbing my back, said, "You're here, babe. Just be proud. Look at." So, but that's
Yeah.
great.
Not only are you there, but you got to take your wife and have that experience together, and that's something that nobody can ever take away from you.
Yes, exactly. Has being a father influenced the way you approach your job as a professional driver?
Absolutely. And I told this story when I was getting on the road team, but the first time when you realize that you've got somebody at home waiting for you to come home, whether it's to feed them or whatever, it changes you. And I don't care whether you're a professional driver or what your vocation is, knowing that somebody's dependent on you, it changes your outlook on life. And I think for me, the biggest change was I knew that I had to provide for this child. My wife works, we both work, but that's part of my job, is to help provide for this family, turned into 3 kids. And so how am I going to provide for my family? I have to be the best professional that I can be. I got to come home safe every day. I've got to keep a clean record so that I can be gainfully employed. And yeah, I'm telling you, if that don't change you as a person, I don't know what will.
Exactly.
I'm going to jump on in here, Rich, and I want to ask you a little bit more about being a road team captain. So, there's road team selections that are coming up here in the near future. All right. As a veteran road team captain, what advice would you give someone that's going to go through selections?
Well, there's a couple things, and you helped me go through that process a few years ago, and I remember vividly you telling me this, and there's no truer words, but if you're going to go through the selection process, be yourself.
Right.
They want to see, whatever road team you're trying to get on, whether it's your company or your state or the national level, they want to know you. They want to get to know you. Don't go up there and pretend to be something that you're not. Just go up there and be yourself. And the other thing that I think is very important, and it's along the same lines of competing at the TDC level, pay attention to detail, right? Like if you need to be somewhere, be there on time, wear the proper, whatever the dress code is of the day, all the little things. And I think that is the same with competing, the same as road team stuff. Little things make a big difference. If you can do the little things right, you're going to do all right.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to ask you this. I asked you this kind of question a while ago about uh, competing at the TDC. So, what's been one of your highlights as a road team captain?
Highlights as a road team captain.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
or some of the highlights. How about that?
Yeah, I think just the things that are most memorable to me, like when you see your phone, you'll see the pictures pop up from your phone, and you've been to this city 3 years ago, and you look at the group of guys that you worked with. I think it was back in September, I had videos popping up from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I did touch a truck there, and when you see those things, it just brings back the memories of the people that you worked with, the messages that you got out. And it's just really amazing when you look back and think about all of the experiences you had and the abilities that you had to go out there and promote the trucking industry. I don't know that I can just pick out one. I can just tell you there's been an awful lot of great memories made.
Right, right. And I remember that selection process that some guys are fixing to go through here in the near future, and just making it to selections was a highlight for me. And when I actually made the team, I was like, "Who, me?" You know, I'm up against all these other guys that are so much better than me. But honestly, if you go in there, being yourself and you go in there with confidence, you'll do fine. I want to move on and talk about, um, industry a little bit with you. What changes have you seen in the industry since you started, and what do you think the future holds for the industry?
So, this isn't really necessarily an industry change, but the biggest change in my job and how I do my job and how it's made things a little bit easier for me, believe it or not, is just the regular old cell phone and GPS. And people take that for granted, but when I started, as well as you guys, I don't know if you guys have ever peddled freight in your career, but
Yeah.
as a 20-year-old kid, when they hand you a stack of bills and go, here, go deliver this freight, and you don't even know where, a lot of times you don't know where the cities are at, let alone all these little stops along the way. Um, and I think it was a great way for me to cut my teeth in trucking because it was sink or swim. Like you had to figure this out. You had to do it safely. You had to get all the stops off. And some people, quite frankly, that's not for them. Maybe they'll end up going on the roadside or to a different part of the industry. But to think about back then, we didn't have cell phones. I know I kind of sound like an old timer, but you had to find your way to your first stop, get a map along the way, and hopefully ask for some directions when you get to the first stop at your customer. But now I think about the GPS, and whether it's on your phone or your handheld or the truck, and to be able to just punch that in and know exactly where you're going. I mean, you still need to know. You still have to be cautious of where you're going into with these places with these big trucks, but that for me has been the biggest change in my career as far as just making things a lot easier. Looking back, like it's just kind of funny how something so small made a big difference. But from an industry standard, I think what I've noticed from the LTL sector is when I started driving back in 1998, every LTL carrier seemed to want a terminal every 70 to 90 miles. And they wanted small city operations and, regional line haul. And now it seems like in the last 10 years or so, a lot of companies are pulling back from that. They want to spread it out a little bit. You think about the overhead of maintaining a building and staffing a building. And so um, I think that's the biggest from my sector of the trucking industry, which is LTL. That's what I'm noticing the most. And I think the second part of your question was, what do I see as far as changes in the future?
Right, right.
Um, honestly, I'm not going to pretend that I've got a crystal ball here and look in the future and see what's going to change because there's a lot of people a lot smarter than I am that are trying to figure that out. But one thing we know for sure, right, is trucking is always changing. Everything's changing in trucking. Things are going to change, and you got to be able to adapt to that, right? For instance, I just center of mine closed a couple of years ago. I had to relocate. That's just part of the deal. It's part of trucking. Things are evolving. But I also don't think, what we do doesn't really change. We move freight from point A, or we move commodities, whatever you're hauling. We move it from point A to point B. And I don't feel like that's going to change. And I also don't feel like the opportunities in the trucking industry are going to change either. You're still going to have an opportunity for a great career, whether it's in the truck or in another facet of the trucking industry. And I think that's awesome about an industry that you can come in there knowing that you're going to have job security for years to come and be able to provide for your family. And I think that's what I love about the trucking industry.
Right, right. And you touched on my next question a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So what is some of the challenges that a city driver might face that other people might not realize?
Well, how much time we got left here? I could probably run on this all day.
We got 15
Um,
minutes left.
okay, well, there's a lot, and I think the highlights. Number one, obviously, different docks, different locations present different challenges, right? Some of these rural areas that we go to down here in rural Illinois, they weren't made for these big trucks. They were made for small, straight trucks at the turn of the century. So you have to be very cautious of where you're backing into to make sure that it's capable of getting in and out of there safely. Another thing that I think is really overlooked is paperwork. Road guys and maybe even over the road drivers probably don't interact a lot with bills of lading as nearly as much as a city driver does. But on just a regular bill of lading, and I've noticed recently that I've caught a few errors on some from different customers where something simple, like they'll put 6 pieces down, 200, and they don't you have to actually have what kind of piece that is. Is it a skid? Is it a crate? Is it a tote? And then 200, sometimes they don't put, is that pounds or kilograms? You have to have one or the other, and then a commodity description. Customers, sometimes they'll just put 6 boxes down and not have a description. Well, DOT needs to know what kind of freight is in those boxes, right? So those are all things that I think are pretty unique to city work. And, as far as the bill of ladings go, like, you're so caught up into getting into the dock safely, getting your piece count right, and then thinking about how it's loaded, make sure it's secure and all that, which that's a whole nother ball game as far as city driver challenges. And sometimes paperwork can be overlooked. And so that's one that I've really had to refocus on lately to make sure that I'm catching all those mistakes.
Right, right. I was a city driver myself for about 5 or 6 years, and we sure have come a long way since I was a city driver. I remember running out with a paper manifest, and since you've been a city driver since 1998, right? Uh,
Yep.
I mean, you remember this, and lining up your customers and going from this customer to next customer. It was kind of hard, but now it's all done by computer and it'll route it out for you a little bit better than what we could used to do it.
Yeah, it's, as I said, technology today is amazing, and dispatch is able to see all that, and it really cuts down, I think, especially when they're routing the trailers in the morning, to make sure they're routing it the most efficient ways possible. Another thing I think that's kind of overlooked is interactions with customers. And actually, that's, like I said earlier, that's one of my favorite things in my job. But when you're in a new area, new route, it's hard to get used to people, and for them to get used to you, you got to know who to talk to, which doctor to go to, what times they go on break, their personalities, all of those things. And it's all something that I love about my job, but it's also challenging at times when you're in a new area and you're like, you don't know anybody, and so getting to know people sometimes can be challenging.
Right, right. Um, I got 2 more questions to ask you, and then I'm going to let Steve kind of wrap up the questions before we actually go off the air. Because we got about let's see here, we got about 10 minutes left, so we'll probably fill that 10 minutes up with these last few questions there. But being a city driver, do you ever do anything outside of being a city driver? Do you ever run line haul or anything like that?
I have sprinkled in some of that over the years. When I first started driving, part of my daily run was I would do a line haul down to what we called Central Cross Docks. It was a Caterpillar cross dock down in Peoria. I'd switch trailers there, take a load down, pick and empty up, and then make a few pickups on the way. I have sprinkled in some line haul on the way. If the road board is over, I've done some some daytime line haul. But not typically. I mean, for the most part, my career has been strictly city. And it's funny too, because when I have done them line haul runs, I'll take a 600-mile run, and I'm thinking, well, this is easy. It's just one stop. You just meet and turn, and you're back home. And by the time I get out of that truck, I'm like, I'm sure glad I don't do this every day. And I know that you guys do, and my hat's off. It's just not something I don't think that I would enjoy doing every day.
Well, like Steve and I always say, if it wasn't for the city drivers, we wouldn't have stuff to run, to the meet points. I also, I want to tag on that. So you've been a city driver, but you've also did some stuff that's kind of been long haul as a road team captain. How was that experience for you, going from city to running some of the stuff across country?
I love that. I love that. I love it because you get out of I'm out of my state. I'm in states that sometimes I've never driven in before. So I like all of that, but it's also challenging too, again, for a city guy, that I'm really knowledgeable in Illinois, north central Illinois. But when you get outside of that, I'm like a fish out of water, and to be able to plan that route, make sure that you can get there safely, sometimes it's a 2-day run when you're moving a truck or something. And that's all challenging for a city driver. But again, at this stage in my career, with 27 years of experience and a little over 1.5 million miles, it's nothing that I can't handle. But it definitely is a learning curve. And you got to lean on your fellow captains, right? I mean, I've called other captains and, hey, I got this event up in upstate New Hampshire. How do I get what's the best route to get from New Hampshire all the way down to
That guy
DC?
right there.
And so, you got to lean on fellow captains, and that's been where it's a brotherhood of
Mm-hmm.
drivers, male and female, and that's how you get through things like that.
Yeah.
Like Tim just said, he kept pointing down to me. I get a lot of phone calls, especially in the Midwest area, because that's kind of my home base, And how do you get here? How do you get there? Of course, we sleep in hotels. We don't sleep in a truck. But, the cool part about what I like doing the cross country stuff, it keeps you in touch with the industry. You see the problem with truck parking. You go in a truck stop and try to take your 30-minute break. How long it takes you to get off the highway, get in there. You're sitting in line at the fuel stop, at the fuel island. You got to get the truck washed, and you're sitting in line for 2 hours just waiting to get a truck washed.
Yeah.
And you see what these over the road drivers go through. And, it kind of keeps you in touch with reality. Yeah. Hey, we need more truck parking. We need this. We need that.
Yeah. And that's something that, again, for me, like it was an eye opener as a city guy that, in my own little niche here, like I can park anywhere I want to, in rural Illinois, like there's all kinds of parking, but you start getting into these big urban cities and looking for a place to park, especially overnight parking. And, I've spent hours looking at Google Earth trying to find a good, safe place to park a truck overnight that's either at a hotel or right next to a hotel. And it can be very, very challenging. So that has definitely been an eye opener.
Yes.
Rich, I got last question. I'm going to let Steve wind it up with his last little bit of questions there. But what keeps, what's something that you wish the general public knew more or understood better about truck drivers?
I want them when they pass a truck, and that's what I love about the Share the Road program or any program where you get to interact with the public is you get to give the public an idea of not just when they pass a truck they see a driver, but there's no real connection there. So when I get a chance to interact with them and they get to see that I'm a person, I have a family, and they get to interact with you. I think so many times the public, they just see trucks and truck drivers, and it's kind of like, here's this big vehicle moving down the road, and there's no connection there. But you have the opportunity to connect with people and just talk to them about your experiences and your life, just life in general and what you do. And I wish more people had that opportunity. And that's what I love about, the road team programs is we're out there spreading that message. And that's the message. And I do want to remind everybody that, when you're passing a truck, that driver in that truck is most likely one of the highest trained drivers on the roadway. And you're in good hands with that driver next to you.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What keeps you motivated to stay involved at such a high level in the work and all the other stuff you do, the captainship and the competitions? What keeps you motivated?
I think it's just I love what I do. I love what the job that I do every day. I love that. When I'm there, the days fly by because you're so involved in your work and you're just focused on that next stop and getting home safe. But then when you have a chance to step outside and do the competition or do a road team event, it's something new and it's refreshing. It's something different to do. But I guess when you love all of those aspects, like I don't really see any reason to not do all that stuff. It's part of who I am now. It's part of what I do. I think back in the day, and that was one of my concerns of first starting to compete, which actually led to being a road team captain was, I was doing a lot of sports and things like that. And my kids were younger. And so the time was really a concern of mine. Do I have the time to do all this extra stuff? But as we get older, I don't really play that many sports anymore. So this has opened the door to something that I can do, that I can still compete in at the competition level. But being able to get out and advocate for the trucking industry as a whole and share my experiences, like that's pretty awesome to be able. How many people can do that outside of their normal gig and whatever it is their career path is? And so that's what I think keeps me going, is just the fact that I love it so much and it's so much fun. And the people that you meet along the way, whether it's customers on my route every day, or whether it's fellow competitors that I compete with and against, or whether it's road team captains, I mean, those relationships, they just drive me to keep going and making more.
Exactly. I'm gonna ask you a big one here because I asked myself this several times, and every time I ask myself this, I come up with different answers. But what legacy do you hope to leave behind in the industry, and what message would you want to share with the next generation of drivers?
Oh, that is a big one, and I think it probably would change depending on how much thought you put into it. But I think it's weird, and I know that you guys are in this spot in your career and in your lives. It's weird for me to look at that and think of I'm the person now. When I first started driving, I was a 20-year-old kid, right? I was the youngest kid on the block and it seemed to be that way for a long time. And then all of a sudden, I started realizing I'm not the youngest guy at work anymore, and so now I have the opportunity to give back and give, you know, some of the knowledge that I've learned over the years, some of the experiences that I've had, and just be that mentor to the next generation. I still consider myself a young person, but when you look at people that you're working next to, sometimes they're 20 years younger than you now, and so you have the opportunity to share your experiences with them. And whether it be that, whether it be mentoring people that want to get on the road team, and you talk to them about how you did that, or the TDC level, and I think that's what the legacy that I want to look forward to in the next, however long I'm going to be working and driving, is just giving back, whether it's at an industry level, doing road team work, or whether it's, giving back to the new driver that's just coming to work and, they're scared to death or whatever. Like, I want to be that guy. Hey, you can do this. If I can do this, anybody can do it. And if I can compete and do the things I've done at the competition level, really anybody can do it. It's just a matter of, you know, I have no secrets. It's just a matter of hard work and dedication. And
Exactly.
if you can take somebody like that at any of those levels, they'll be successful.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's really good advice there. And Rich, you say that it makes me remember, when I was a young man, when I started driving, I had as much hair as you did. So
Am I in danger here in the next couple of years of
you
losing
may
some of that?
be. You never know. You never know. But anyway, but it is a reality and a gut check when some of the new employees or the new hires come on and there's like, yes, sir, no, sir. And, you know that they're kind of looking up to you. And you know what? And that's what we got to remember as veteran drivers, professionals, road team captains, that people are looking at us and we have got to be the professionals that we are to uphold the standard in the industry for sure. And I think you are a fine example of that. Let me commend you for that because you do a great job of that. You are a fine example for this industry.
Thank you. And I've had a lot of guys like both of you guys over the years, and many other people that I've met that have brought that out of me, quite honestly. So I hope I can do that for the next generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a
Well,
good man, brother, and I don't see any reason why you won't do that.
Thank you.
And it's a great feeling when you get a chance to share your knowledge with the younger generation.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna do it real quick, but like back when I started in '89, you still use Rand McNally. You open the book, you had to find your way around, you had to make phone calls. You're at the dinner table, you're doing your logbook, you're filling out all your trip reports and everything, and you pop a quarter in the jukebox, and people's like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, they had phones at the at the table." So now everything's right here in our hand. So to share those experiences is great, and say, "Look what I did, but look what you have available to you right now."
Yep.
And I learned from the younger generation too. They've got new ideals and stuff like that, and I learn from them.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Well, Rich, we've been in the post trip part of the show. We're kind of post tripping this show, and we always end the show with a word of encouragement and a word of advice for safety. And we're going to start with you, then we'll go to Steve, and then I'll close the show out here. Okay?
All right. Well, I just want to remind all those drivers out there, all you drivers, you are the professional. So no matter what situation you're in, whether it's in the truck in heavy traffic or out of the truck at a truck stop, you're the professional, and just always be mindful of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly. I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight, listening. Stay true, stay safe, and always remember the most important trip is the trip home. God bless y'all.
Yeah, Steve and Rich, y'all just hang on after we go off the air. I want to talk to you on the other side right before we sign off tonight. But, well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for tonight's run here on Truckers Voices. A big thank you to our guest, Ritch Fundell. The man, with a ride, from the city streets to the big stage. This guy proves that he can drive with skill and heart. And hey, thanks to all of our listeners out there, whether you're hammered down or shut down for the night, we appreciate you riding along. So don't forget to hit that like, share, and follow button before you hit the bump. And until next time, keep the shiny side up, the rubber side down. And remember, if your GPS says make a U-turn, it's probably just jealous you know better than he does for the route there. Everybody, good night.
Good night, guys.
From the highways to the heartstrings, he's back with a sound that moves like an 18-wheeler on the open road.
Well, pour me another cup of coffee. Here it's the best in the
Our
land.
good friend and proud supporter of Truckers Voices, Patrick Loro, is rolling out his brand new album, and it's loaded with soul, grit, and pure trucking spirit.
Put another nickel in the jukebox. Play the song called The Truck Driving Man.
Featuring the hit singles Truck Driving Man, this album is a tribute to the men and women who keep America moving.
I got those big wheels turning. I'm on my way to San Antonio. Well, pour me another.
Whether you're driving throughout the night or kicking back at the truck stop, Patrick Loro's music will ride with you every single mile.
Well, pour me
So
another
check
cup of
out
coffee.
Patrick Loro's new album, Truck Driving Man, and you can click this QR code right here to buy it, download all the songs he has on